I'm not locked in here with you. You're locked in here with me.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Real Estate Realities with the Rebel Broker. My name's Robert Whitelion. I am the Rebel Broker, licensed real estate broker in the state of California, member of the National Association of Realtors. But please, don't hold that against me. Back once again. I have become the most unreliable podcaster on the planet. I apologize. I keep apologizing. I'm just going to stop apologizing. I'm just going to do what I can do. We find ourselves on this April 12th, poised to write our checks to the federal government. For many of us, we still haven't even reached the date where we've stopped working for the government, right? When you figure out how much of a percentage of your pay you actually end up giving to the government, and then you calculate that as a percentage of the year. Many of us aren't even there yet, right? Many of us work more than 4 months for the government before we start paying ourselves. If that statistic doesn't make you want to cry, I don't know what does. But we're not here to talk about that. It's just fresh in my mind, having gone over all of my tax documents last week and having my accountant tell me how much of a check I have to write to the federal government. And the enhanced level of check writing I have to write this year on a quarterly basis. So, pardon me if it's a little bit on my mind. However, of course, as we find ourselves thinking these thoughts about the tax man and or woman, some of us might also be thinking about side gigs, right? That was what we talked about last time, a million years ago. And boy, has a lot happened since then. So finished off the Hawaiian vacation. C'est magnifique. It was awesome. Had a great time. There was a great deal of sand. There was a great deal of surf. And if I'm being honest, more than a smattering of adult beverages, which is always good. But man, was I overtaken by the fervor of doing research for you, my peoples, relating to, and I'm still, believe it or not, this literally, I got bronchitis. I returned from Hawaii on a Friday. That Sunday, I started to get bronchitis or started to feel a little funky, full on the following Monday, Tuesday. And that's been weeks ago. So the primary reason I haven't done any shows since the last time, and as I look at the dates, I see, wow, it's been a lot longer than I thought, has been for the majority of that time. I haven't really been able to talk for more than a couple of minutes at a time. This is probably week 4 or 5, I guess. I still have a cough. And not like one of those casual coughs that you just cough every once in a while, but one of those crazy productive coughs. I'm not going to get into the details of what a productive cough is. If you want to Google it, feel free. Be ready to not be happy. For those of you who know what a productive cough is, you feel my pain. So that's still happening. But anyway, lots of people have it. All my kids ended up coming down with it. It's been unpleasant. But anyway, I did continue my research into side hustles, with the side hustle of front burner obsession being the Amazon thing, right? No, there's no greater online retailer. I mean, it's not just about a store online. It's about an infrastructure, right? This is an organization that has an ability to distribute stuff like nobody else. And you can be a store owner and never leave your house. You don't have to keep inventory in your house. You don't have to do all these other things. And the Google keywords, the YouTube search keywords you're going to want to go with are FBA, retail arbitrage, online arbitrage, private labeling. All of these things are things I've been researching. Now, so far in my travels, now, why am I talking about this? Just to remind folks who might be hitting the show for the first time, and if you are, welcome. Welcome to Real Estate Realities with the Rebel Broker, spewing real estate information since January of 2007. And one of the things I wanted to do this year, one of the questions that's always come up has been, hey, I got this life thing I'm doing, and I'm having a hard time saving up money to take those first steps into financial independence through investing in real estate or whatever you're going to do, right? I mean, Maybe your side hustle becomes your main hustle at some point because you're doing so well at it. That's always possible. But one goal this year was to better answer that question. I don't want to answer the question with, well, pay for this guy's course or use other people's money. Everybody says use other people's money, and on sites like biggerpockets.com, which I highly recommend. It's a great site for folks who are looking to invest. You know, people go up and say, hey, invest in this. Well, you know what? It's not that simple. Like nothing and here's the other part, right? I think we all need to grok the idea that when money is involved, the process will not be simple. It will not be easy. It will not be simply you asking for money and getting it. You have to come up with a business plan when you're asking for money. You have to say, here's the proposition. Here's what I've got lined up. Here's the plan. Here are the exact details. Here's the amount of return I expect. Here's how much I expect to pay you back. Right? Within a reason, not only will you get your money back, but you'll get your money back plus a percent. And it needs to be a relatively short period of time. Most investors that are doing that hard money, high liquidity thing are not interested in waiting 10 years for their money or 30 or 5. They're usually want to wait for a year, 2 years, 3 years, right? It's a shorter thing. So how do you overcome that? Let's say you're not someone who's great at coming up with a plan. Maybe you could find someone who could help write up your plan in a way that would work well. You'd have to work your prezo, right? And then you've got to fine tune your 10, 15, and 30-second elevator pitches. Because then you got to go out and do the hard work of finding someone to consider your investment opportunity. Then you have to have your own savvy engaged to filter out the schmucks that aren't really investors, but like to pretend like they're investors and are wasting your time. It all becomes very frustrating. So here's what I came up with. I decided, okay, here's something that is more or less entirely in your control. What is a side hustle where you could get some money to feed your need to invest in real estate? And the goal, I think, would be to get your hands on $10,000 to $20,000 over the course of a year, right? Based on the idea, and we've talked about it on this show. If you go back just a couple of years, just go back a year, right? Because we don't want to talk about old data. But there are tons of areas of this country where you could get that first investment property with less than with about $10,000 down, right? We've talked about various communities where you can buy homes for $10,000, $90,000. Now you can do some stuff with 10% down, but let's do that 10 to 20 grand range because we may have folks who want to do totally conventional, right? And put 20 grand in. So that'd be the goal, and you need to figure out what that number is. Now, in my neighborhood, if you want to invest in the average property, you got to come up with a little bit more than that, right? Since the average home in my community is over $900,000. Or you got to find yourself another community, right? So even if you are in my community, let's start there for a second, because I want to make sure to set the stage. We're going to talk side hustle, I promise. But a lot of people I talk to in Silicon Valley say, Robert, you're nuts if there's no place to go to get a good deal on a property and be positive cash flow. Very true of the celebrated zip codes, right? San Jose, San Francisco, Sunnyvale, Santa Clara, Cupertino, Los Gatos, Mountain View. Absolutely true. You're absolutely right. So go back to rule one of real estate, location, right? So where do you start looking? You start looking in Fremont. You start looking in Oakland. And a lot of people who know the area will wince when they say Oakland. I wince when people say Oakland, but I have a very good reason to wince when people say Oakland. I've been shot at in Oakland. A lot of people don't. I drove an ambulance for a little while in the 90s. Well, not a little while, 6 years. In addition to doing real estate, I did real estate at the same time. I was actually doing several things at the same time. I was a multitasker in the 90s. Thought I wanted to go to medical school. So I was an EMT and I drove an ambulance and frequently got pulled into the 911 dispatch circus that is Oakland. Now, that wasn't my primary area of service. My primary area of service was Santa Clara County, but occasionally got pulled into San Francisco or Oakland when the 911 queue got full, meaning all the paramedics were used up, right? If all the paramedic units get used up, then they go to the guys who aren't, that are just 2 EMTs in a rig, right? Long story. Or if it's a total non-emergency, right? Sometimes it's a scheduled thing, or sometimes it's a call for an ambulance that is not an urgent emergency, right? Anyway, so I believe I was shot at once, and I know I was shot at once while driving around in Oakland. So no one's got better reasons to be worried about Oakland than I do. However, even I, with my stressful stories about doing things relating to emergency medical services in Oakland can point to areas where it's totally not a thing, right? And if you want proof, go up to Trulia, do a search on homes for sale in Oakland, and then look at the crime heat map. Are there going to be areas that are going to be red hot? Yeah, absolutely. Don't buy there. But there are other areas that are far more reasonable, areas where you can get into it. Now, it's reasonable compared to $800,000 a year, or $800,000 average price. So you got to take that into account too. Probably not going to find something for $100,000, but 2, 3, 4. I find properties frequently in that price range that are okay. All right. So anyway, setting the stage. Now, this strategy will be ridiculously useful for those of you who live in areas where the cost of living is lower, right? Because here's what's great about this particular side hustle. It has, where you live does not matter. Well, at least in the United States, it doesn't matter, right? If you're somewhere else, maybe it does. But anywhere in the United States, if you've got proximity to a place to drop off a UPS box, you're golden. So you could be living in a trailer. Let's try to pick not a stereotype state. If you are living in a trailer in Idaho, people don't talk about people living in trailers in Idaho, right? I think just because it's too cold up there mostly. But anyway, no matter where you live, this could be a good thing for you. And here was the criteria. So now let's get into the actual stuff, the actual. This isn't me telling you what I've seen other people do. I am about to tell you exactly what my experience was working through the process of doing this side hustle. I'm not passing on something someone else told me. I am to one degree or another, right? Because I went on YouTube, I did all the searches I'm suggesting you do, and I learned from people, and I did it. Because the best way to learn is to do it. The best part is you could completely screw this up the first 3 or 4 times you do it, and all you have at risk is, I don't know, $80, $100 tops. I don't think I've spent more than $100 on the products that I have resold on Amazon so far, but I've made a couple of $100 off of that. All right, so let's go ahead and jump in and talk about this. So the very first experiment I ran was I am going to set a timer for 1 hour, and I am going to do retail or online arbitrage. And what that basically means is arbitrage, the word arbitrage means to find something at one price that you can then sell somewhere else for a greater price. And that's what you're basically doing. And there are sites that facilitate it. So where would I start if I were doing this? I would start at vipon.com, VIPON.com. You're going to want to look for things. What are my usual settings? I usually go with at least a 50% discount. And then I'll do it based on how I sort it. If I'm doing 50% discount, I'll usually start with highest price and see that. And then I'll also go with greatest discount. And it sorts that way. And then you scroll down the list. At first, I was only looking at current deals. And then I started looking at upcoming deals and discovering that those upcoming deals can be sexy because they end up getting used up really fast. So in other words, when I just casually stroll up to Vipon and I look at the currently available deals, all I'm seeing is what's left based on what's left from earlier in the day, right? If you go and spend your time and do all your buying for the next hour doing that, then go and sort by upcoming deals and look for the ones where the discounts are freaking amazing. I put a little reminder in my calendar to alert me at what I'll do. I go onto my iPhone or I do it on my computer using the calendar on the computer, and I select a notification in my calendar with the URL. I will go to it and then when the alarm goes off, I'll usually give it 2 minutes before the time that deal is supposed to come available, and then I'll go and I'll buy it. And what you'll find is in 10 or 15 minutes, that stuff gets all sold. So the sweetest, juiciest returns are often those. So just some things right off the bat to keep in mind. And so what are you doing? When you find the right deal, what do you do? Okay, first you go to it and you make sure you have a Seller Central account, right? So that you can sell on Amazon. You don't need to create anything special. You can do it just as a private seller the first time you do it. And you have an option of doing it where you either get charged $1 for every product you sell, or you get charged a flat fee of $40 or $39.99, whatever it is per month, based on the assumption you're going to sell more than 40 per month. That's usually the more cost-effective way to go. The things you're going to want to keep in mind are the page to add inventory and the page that they have to calculate the costs associated with selling it, and it'll tell you what the return on investment is. So here's what you do. You go into Vipon, and I'm going to run through this quickly. I might do a video of it because this is something that really lends itself more to a video, or at the very least, I'll link some videos in the description of folks who've really laid this out well. You find it, everything looks great. Don't click on take the coupon. You don't want to take the coupon until you've analyzed it and made sure that you want to do it. So what I usually do is within Vipon, right underneath the image, click the link to look at it on Amazon. Take a look at it. Does it have any reviews? The goal is for it to have a couple. I usually, unless I use a thing called Keepa. And I actually started using Amazon Scout. Now, Amazon Scout, you got to pay for it. It's a monthly thing. What I would suggest if you want to buy Amazon Scout, the Chrome extension or the browser extension, don't just buy it. I made the mistake of just buying it, and they'll offer you either a monthly or a yearly fee to pay for that. Don't do that. If you really want to do this, there's one that's a lifetime deal, and the link I'll share with you below, this guy tends to reveal these discounts. He partners or affiliates with Amazon Scout. You'll want to get the lifetime one, and I think right now he's offering a thing where it's a $20 discount off of the lifetime subscription to Amazon Scout. So, or is it Jungle Scout? God, am I screwing it up already? I think it's Jungle Scout. Yes, it's Jungle Scout. I apologize. So don't buy the month-to-month thing. And then Jungle Scout also has a web thing that you can use to discover the best products to do private label. We can talk about what private label is, but I don't suggest you start there. I think you should get a level of comfort with the process of dealing with Amazon before you jump into a private label scenario. And it's going to cost you more money. Private labeling you need to have a couple $1,000 laying around in order for that to make sense. So bear with me. All right. So the first thing you do is check that you're not restricted on selling the product you're about to try and buy. To do that, you go to your Seller Central, log in, and when you do add inventory, there's a field where you can put in the ASIN number. That's ASIN. For the Amazon page you've just clicked through from Vipon, go scroll to the bottom, get the ASIN number, paste it in, check it, click on the limitations link that's part of the little description of the item, and you'll see it'll break it up into maybe 1 to 2 things, where one will say you can sell the used version of this, you're okay, but if you want to sell the new version of this, you got to get approved. Click approve or request approval, and click through until it either just automatically approves you. Sometimes it'll just automatically approve you. And other times it'll give you a interface where it wants to see invoices and all kinds of other stuff, and forget it. If it presents you with that, skip it. Move on to the next product. Don't bother. All right, the next thing you'll want to do, once that obstacle is hurdled, now go to the provided Seller Central Amazon calculator to figure out whether it's worth it for you to buy, whether there's enough meat on the bone. Prior to you doing any of this stuff, there should at the very least be $10 or more between what you would be paying for the product and what the current buy box price is for that product. And the buy box price is what is it? You know what the buy box is in Amazon is, right? When you go and it says buy this, it tells you a specific price and it even lists who it's sold by, like shipped by Amazon, but sold by this seller. So there's probably multiple sellers selling this thing, and whoever has the lowest price and has it in the warehouse at Amazon gets the buy box, meaning when they click it, they're actually specifically buying it from that person. So what you want to do is make sure there's at least $10 on the bone for you, at the very least. I won't even look at it if there's not at least $10. In other words, let's say you find something that says it's only going to cost you 99 cents, but it only sells on Amazon for $9. Don't do it. Not worth your time once fees are taken out. So go to the calculator. Again, you will paste the ASIN number for that thing. And the reason you're pasting the ASIN number is because you want accurate data. And by accurate data, I mean, what's it going to cost to ship that thing to Amazon? So it'll have the dimensions of the thing, and it'll have the weight of the thing, and that'll all get calculated into whether or not you're going to make money. You input that, then you input at the top, I think you input what you can sell it for, use the buy box price, the current buy box price for that number. Then there's another field down there that is supposed to include your shipping costs. I always put at least $1 in there based on the idea that I'm going to actually have multiple items in a single box. So like, for instance, the last shipment I did to Amazon, it asked me to break my stuff. I had 25 items. It asked me to break it up into 3 boxes. So, once you did the math on all 25 items and you averaged out the shipping costs on all 3 boxes, it was about $1 per thing. So I always put $1.50, whatever I want to put in there as the shipping cost. And at the bottom, you put what it cost you to buy it. You click calculate, and over to the right, you're going to see exactly how much you're going to make. And look at the graph all the way to the right. And that hopefully nice, big, tall bar graph is going to tell you how much profit you're going to make off of that item. If I don't see, and I'm now to the point where if I don't see at least, so I'm a little bit more anal now. So when I first do a screening of products, I actually prefer to see $15 or more on the bone without running all these specific tests. But I want to see enough in there, because here's what I've discovered. Count on a buy box war happening, where someone is going to undercut the buy box by a penny. And then you're only a cent or two away from being in the buy box. So you're like, okay, I should do it. And then that's going to happen. Every day I go and I check my Seller Central listings, and I'm 2 cents away now from having the buy box. Now, if you hold on to a product too long, if a product stays too long at Amazon, they're going to start charging you warehouse fees. To be honest, I don't know when that starts. Maybe it's after a month. But I like to try to be in the buy box. I want this stuff to happen fast. But with a couple of these products where I thought I was going to make, I had one product where I thought I was going to make $50 on it. And what I quickly discovered was I wasn't the only guy apparently doing that. The price got dropped in half, and now it's to the point where everybody's fighting for the buy box. So anyway, something to keep in mind. If you want to play the strategy, if you don't go do that, because let's say if you had a history with this product within Amazon of price. Now, one way to do this, another important tool to install in Chrome, is a thing called Keepa, Keepa. Just go to the Chrome extension store, search on Keepa, totally free, install that, and then right underneath the photograph and description of the product, what you're going to see is a graph going back in time showing you what the buy box price was over time. If you're at a high point and it's normally way less, don't assume that when you actually get the thing, repackage it, and send it back to Amazon, you're going to get that high price that's currently listed. You want to assume the worst case scenario, so that's usually what I do. Okay, so remember that, Keepa, and install that in Chrome. Totally valuable, totally free. Now, we're going to go ahead and continue this in just a second. We're going to take a quick break, so don't go away. We'll be right back. Are you ready to jump in and start your search for your first investment property? Maybe you've decided that it's time to own your own home, or maybe you're ready to sell your home and move on to something new. No matter what your goal is, the Rebel Broker can help. That's right, aside from hosting this show, I am also the owner-broker of Whitelaw & Sons Real Estate Services right here in Silicon Valley. With over 25 years experience serving Silicon Valley, Morgan Hill, San Martin, and Gilroy, I or one of my great agents can help you achieve your goals in real estate. So if you're ready to look into taking that next step towards achieving your real estate goals, point your browser at www.soldbyrobert.com. That's www.soldbyrobert.com and get in touch. Let me show you how I will earn your business and your respect. Again, that's www.soldbyrobert.com, or you can call me at 408-852-0525. California Bureau of Real Estate ID 00984-909. Welcome back, everyone. We are talking side hustles, and we're talking about my real world experience doing Amazon FBA. FBA stands for Fulfilled by Amazon, which basically means you acquire a product through some method, whether that's online arbitrage or retail arbitrage, and then you create a shipping thing that you're then going to send to Amazon, and Amazon's going to hold on to it. So the point of that is so that it becomes a prime product, meaning it gets shipped under Amazon Prime. And you're priced at a point where you now share the buy box with other people. Usually what happens is, with probably about 80% of the products I've put up there, we don't start this war of prices. And so everyone stays at that price. The buy box stays the same, and it just rotates through the different sellers as people buy the product. things I look for in the things I'm doing this online arbitrage for, I like to see at least 30 sales per month. I want to see more. I'd prefer to see 300. But at least I know there's one selling a day. So there's a pretty good likelihood that at some point I'm going to get the buy on that or the sell on it when the time comes. But by looking at Keepa, you can see what the price history was. If the buy box price right now is ridiculous compared to past prices and is totally not historically normal, don't assume that current high buy box price is what it's going to end up being. So when you're doing that calculation I told you about earlier, put the lower number as what it's likely to sell for to figure out what your profit will be. Once you've run your numbers and you decide you're going to do it, add it to your inventory before you actually purchase it. And let me tell you why. And this is a lesson that cost me $1.40. So cheap lesson, but a good one to learn. If you wait for it to arrive and be in your hands before you add it to your inventory, there is the small but real possibility that whoever created that original listing that created that ASIN number is going to completely sell out of that product and never renew it or even cancel and delete it. So there was literally only 48 hours between when I bought it and when it arrived. And then that 48-hour window, whoever originally had owned that listing let it expire and die and deleted it. So when I entered that ASIN number to try to list it as in something I was going to sell, it was a dead end. It was, this page doesn't exist. This product doesn't exist. If I had added it to my inventory, even with a quantity of 0, if I had just put it into my inventory, my understanding is that would not have happened. It would have stayed there. I would have been able to add to it, and I would have been able to submit it. Now, it only cost me $1.40. It was a stupid product. I'm actually looking at the product right now. It's a thing to put in your mouth so you don't snore. But again, it was $1.40. So I figured, all right, my $1.40 lesson. So that's what you're basically doing in terms of the mechanics. Then once you've got the stuff and you've got it all in your hands, you're going to need to be able to print labels. You're going to be able to need to weigh it and do all these kinds of wonderful things. But you're going to go through this process that should be pretty self-explanatory within Seller Central. And you're going to ship it all back to Amazon. And then it's going to go into their intake process and it's going to show up in their thing. So that's the ridiculous, quick, dirty timeline of what you do. My suggestion is you do it, and it scales. So here was the thing I was worried about, that it wouldn't scale. The very first time I did it, I sat down for an hour and I decided I was going to see how many products I could find within an hour. And this was while I was still in Hawaii. And I think I found 6 products on that first go around, and I did it, and I ended up making profit after everything was said and done. I ended up making about $75. Okay. Not bad, right? For 1 hour. As time went on, I was able to find, on average, 10 items, but I wasn't always able to find ones that made me at least $10 per product. So the bottom line is, if you do have that hour a day, and you can do it every day, Monday through Friday, and let's say we take the weekends off, or you don't take the weekends off. Let's say you put aside an hour on Saturdays to pack your stuff to go to Amazon, and you're going to drop it off at the UPS store. That's $500 a week, right? That's $2,000 a month. That means that at the end of that year, you've saved $24,000. Not bad, right? So that's a great side hustle. Now, let's say instead of saying you're only going to spend an hour a day, let's say you decide you're going to spend a dedicated hour, but then throughout the day when you get breaks, add 1 or 2 or 3 products over the course of the day. Or let's say you're going to do an hour in the morning and an hour in the evening. Suddenly that proposition changes. Or let's say you're going to do an hour Monday through Friday, but you're going to do 2 hours on Sunday morning or Sunday afternoon or Sunday evening. And you're doing it in such a way that you're basically making about $100 per hour that you spend. That's a pretty good return on time spent, right? When I talk to my sons about stuff like this, where they're struggling with making between $13 and $16 an hour, when I talk to them about a process like this, where they're making $100 an hour, it's a whole different ball of wax. Now, for some of you who are making regular wages and thinking, "Oh, I'm doing great," that's not a problem. I make plenty of money. Kind of put this into context. If you decided you're going to do this for 8 hours a day, And, you might argue, well, hey, Robert, we'll probably exhaust our options on a site like Vipon. Well, yeah, but there's others. There's other websites where you can do the same thing. And there's introducing the idea of doing retail arbitrage, which means you go to a Walmart, a Target, whatever else, and using apps that you can have on your phone, you can take a snapshot of the barcode and have everything calculated right then what your proceeds would be. I use Scoutify. And you can get a 30-day free trial of that. And it also lets you do inventorying, which is nice. And that works like a charm. You link it with your Seller Central account. It'll alert you if it's a restricted product that you're not allowed to sell. It will let you input whatever specific info you need to put. It'll let you input the acquisition price and then calculate what your profit would be. And you can decide right then and there if it has enough meat on the bones for you to make it worth it to you. I've done both now. I've done retail and I've done online arbitrage. My biggest shipment went out last weekend. It went out last weekend. It all arrived in Amazon probably by Wednesday this last week, and most of it has now sold. And if we iron it out to an average amount of money per hour that I'm making by doing this, it's a little over $100 per hour so far. And I have, with what I have learned in terms of just what to look for, I am fairly confident that that I can actually ratchet up my requirements in terms of how much I'm going to make and make that number go up. One thing you'll want to be aware of is, and this has already happened. So since I've done such a relatively small number of products, I've only done now maybe, if we added it all up, I've probably done 60 products, 70 products, something in that ballpark that I've bought and then shipped back. Someone's is going to claim that you have that they have rights to the product or whatever, and that's fine. You can do that in a way that you don't lose money. But what'll happen is they'll stop you from being able to sell it. And so in my case, I just sent them a screenshot of the fact I bought it off of Amazon. Amazon didn't restrict my ability to list it. I'm still waiting to hear back on that. But again, worst case scenario, in this particular case, that's an $8 loss if I end up having, and then it's not a loss because I can have it get shipped back to me if I want to, right? Or it depends on what makes sense. If it's going to cost me $8 to get it shipped back, maybe that doesn't make sense. I can actually ask them to simply destroy it, which costs me nothing. But in any event, that's a cost of doing business. I haven't had anybody cause any other issues relating to my inventory. I've had one thing that was, I believe, a supplement or a take a pill to lose weight kind of a thing that I found on Vipon, bought it, got it, did all the things I thought I needed to do it correctly, and then the company that owns the brand is claiming that I'm using their brand without like it's a counterfeit product, but it's not a counterfeit product because I bought it from them, right? So anyway, not sure how that'll work out, but again, if it doesn't work out to my advantage, that's fine. If I have to take that loss as a percentage of what I've been making in terms of the overall cash flow, it's a relatively small amount of money. So retail arbitrage. Here's the other thing. Not as big of a fan of this. This requires a little bit more of an investment in time, and you seem to get less bang for the buck in terms of products found per hour. However, not always true. Good example. The reason why retail arbitrage can often work better is while with online arbitrage, you are finding a product at a time. You can typically, these coupons will only let you buy one of the product. I go to Target and I find, and here's a real world example, I find 12 SodaStream syrup bottles on sale in such a way that once I run the numbers, I'll make $11 off of each bottle. They have 10 diet orange and they have 15 regular orange. Okay, well, I bought all of those. Well, so in one go, do the math. It's 15 plus, what was the other one? Add all that up, that's $100 and something bucks, right? So that's in one moment, in one purchase, I've made that amount of money. I think if I wanted to make the retail thing a more regular thing, and I'm toying with going out and doing a little retail arbitrage today, I've done Target, I've done Walmart. Target so far has been the one where I made the biggest amount of money in one investment in time. I was in Target for about 40 minutes. And that's when I found, what did I find? I found some Febreze refill things. I found some SodaStream syrup. and I found one other thing, and I can't remember what it was. Each one of those things had me making at least $10 on each of them. And the last time I checked my Seller Central, they have all sold. So I've already made the money. It's already in my Seller Central account. So that can be pretty slick. But you can also go and spend that hour and find nothing. I went into Walmart, spent about 45 minutes in there, and did not find a single thing that met the criteria. I'm not, and this was my very first time. The Walmart experience was literally the first time I ever went out and did any retail arbitrage. So clearly could be me. But it's a bummer to go and spend the 45 minutes and have nothing. Now, if I open up any of the websites I use in 45 minutes, I'm going to have probably 10 items queued up to go. So I actually think, depending on your personal mentality, you can help to decide what you're going to do. Maybe you do retail arbitrage for an hour on Saturday mornings, or maybe that's a fun thing that you and your spouse can do, or you do it with your kids, and you go and you do, say, 30 minutes to an hour, with the goal of finding some number of stuff, right? And you're looking for those sales labels. You're looking for the clearance aisles, all that kind of stuff where stuff's going to be at its cheapest. Don't just go to the clearance area in Walmart, though. Also walk those aisles and look for stuff that's been labeled down. And I'll be honest, I'm not dishonest with people when I'm in the retail store. They'll go, oh, hey, what are you looking for? And I say anything that's cheap enough so that if I wanted to try to sell it online, I'd get a decent profit. Walmart lady actually walked me to stuff she thought was the most discounted. Ended up not being the case, ended up being super discounted online as well. But she didn't have any problem with it. Maybe, I don't know if a manager would, but I'm super honest. I would actually be the kind of person who would say, please introduce me to the manager. And then I'd go to the manager and say, hey, listen, you have stuff you want to sell fast and cheap. I want to buy stuff fast and cheap. Give me a call when you know a bunch of stuff's going to go on sale, and maybe I can come and clear the shelves out of the junk you don't want on your shelves anymore. I have a hunch that would probably work a vast majority of the time. As a former in college retail guy, I would have totally given someone a call when I knew a bunch of junk was going to go on sale. Okay, so this would clearly scale. You could clearly make money at it. If there is additional interest, I will absolutely be happy to walk you through my process that I used to do this as a brand spanking new guy. So my theory has got to be anybody who actually starts doing this on a regular basis, who isn't doing it just as a proof of concept for my listeners to see if it can work. There's lots of guys out there. There's a guy named, I'm trying to remember his first name, but part of his last name is Savage. And he's up on YouTube. I gave a bunch of links in the last show I did on this. I'll include the link to the Savages Guys channel. You'll have to get past. He does a lot of ums and whatnot, and so he's a young guy, but he's offering great data if you're willing to kind of sit through it and pull all the info out. So I would strongly suggest that. And you will be well on your way. Now, if I were starting out all over again, if I was way back and I was getting my real estate license for the first time back in 1988. Now, granted, Amazon wasn't around then. If Amazon was, if I was that age now, I would absolutely do this in addition to my real estate stuff back then, particularly the way money was flowing back then, which was, not quite as well as other times in my life. I think it's an excellent way to get the entrepreneurial spirit going. I think it's a great way to take some things that feel a little bit risky, but the risk is ridiculously minor. You're not going to spend a ton of money to make this online arbitrage stuff happen. You're going to be spending $1, $2, $3 to make $10, $15, $20. If you're a little bit more brave, there are some products you can buy that'll cost you $20, $30, but then you'll sell them for $100. I did one of those and that worked great. But you don't have to do that. You can totally start with the stuff that's only going to cost you under $5 a pop to obtain, that you're going to be able to resell on Amazon for $10 to $15 more than that. All right, folks. I hope that kickstarts some folks. I would love for it to be real estate. I'm still super passionate about real estate, and I love real estate. And I think this could be a great way to feed that real estate beast. But if it's not, if you end up making tons of money on this, maybe this becomes your thing. Maybe this becomes what you do and you love it. But for those of you who really love real estate and want to do something that pays you well for your time and helps you build up that nest egg to do some real estate investing, or to buy your first house. Maybe you're not a hardcore real estate person, but you're a hardcore I want my own home person. This could be a great way to start too. All right, folks. I hope that gives you some inspiration to do it. Again, never done it before. Spent we're talking about a month really since the last time we talked. And in that time, I've done several shipments to Amazon. Every single one of them I've made money to the tune of an average of about $100 to $115 per hour that I spent doing it. Totally worth it. Thanks for listening. Talk to y'all later.